All right. Good morning. Good morning. It is Sunday, the 11th, and we are starting our section relationships, which should be fun because who doesn't want to know how to have better relationships and have breathing room in those relationships? Today is the day where we watch the video, and I don't necessarily say too much, but I do answer and ask those questions. So let's get to it. Good morning, girl. How are you? Let me pull the video up. You ready? Here we go.
Hey, you came back. I'm so glad you decided to hang in there after I meddled in your personal finances. This week, we're going to talk about creating breathing room in our relationships. And as we've been saying, breathing room is the space between our pace and our limit. The natural pull is to live as close to the limit as possible with no margin, no breathing room. Have you ever had a season or even just a day when your schedule was so full that you were barely keeping your head above water? Then your sister sent a text or your boss sent an email and you just lost it. Your calendar was at capacity. You were out of breathing room. Or have you ever stretched your spending just a little too far, justifying one too many purchases with the promise that you'll be really good about saving next month? And then there's this medical thing, or you blow a tire, and you just know there's no margin in the bank account to account for that extra expense. It's pretty obvious when you're running out of breathing room in your schedule and in your finances. If you're really honest, you can even see those breakdowns coming. But running out of breathing room in our relationships is a little bit trickier because it can be hard to spot until the breakdown happens, until your best friend stops talking to you or your husband snaps and you never saw it coming. You can figure out which relationships you're pushing too close to the limit by asking this question: who is getting the bare minimum? Maybe it's a phone call to your mom, but never quite enough time for a visit. Or it's food, shelter, and clothing for the kids, but no snuggles, no laughter, no quality time. In relationships without breathing room, you may be meeting the needs of the other person, but the joy or delight is missing. As you might have noticed in those examples, the most important relationships in your life are the ones you're most likely to push to the limit. Because your best friend, your husband, your kids, your parents, I'll call these your inner circle people, they love you so much that they have a much higher tolerance for your excuses, cancellations, and promises to be there next time. However, if the breathing room in these relationships runs on empty for too long, you're in for a breakdown that could take months or even years to repair. Here's the principle at play. Relationships thrive when there's breathing room. Relationships die when we're living at our limits. None of us want to push our most important relationships to that point. So why do we do it? Just like we talked about back in part 1, what drives the breathing room right out of our relationships is fear. The fear of missing out, the fear of falling behind, and the one I have to manage, that fear of disappointing other people. It's hard to admit, but like me, maybe you're so afraid of what your neighbors or colleagues or the other PTA moms will think of you that you'd rather disappoint someone in your inner circle than risk the judgment and rumors that may come from disappointing one of those outer circle people. Here's what I've had to learn. They can find another speaker. Allie can't find another mom latest crush. Someone else can plan this year's fundraiser. I need to be on the bleachers watching some almost grown-up boys play a last season of baseball. That email doesn't need a reply right now. I should close my computer and spend quality time with my husband instead. Here's the thing. There are just a few roles that only I can fill. For me, it's Andy's wife, it's Andrew, Garrett, and Allie's mom, it's daughter and sister. Maybe your roles include being an aunt or a grandma. They're just a few that are unique to you. Someone else will eventually fill your role at work. Someone else will lead that committee. Someone else could teach that class. And if you're not careful, if you let fear drive your decisions, you may trade what's unique to you for something someone else can do. The Old Testament has a story that actually taught me this lesson. It's about someone who understood his unique role and refused to be distracted from it. The verse we're going to look at today first caught my attention in the midst of those heavy-duty mommy years when our kids were still small. It comes from chapter 6 in Nehemiah. Let me give you a little context for the story. Nehemiah was a Jewish man who worked for the king of Persia. He was the king's cupbearer. And at this time, hundreds of years before Jesus, the city of Jerusalem had been conquered and pretty much destroyed. The walls of the city had been torn down, meaning the Jewish people who lived there were in constant danger of being invaded again. Without walls, the other nations and armies nearby could come steal the crops and plunder the city whenever they wanted. So Nehemiah, who remember was Jewish, decides he needs to do something to help these defenseless people who were essentially his relatives. So he takes a big risk by going to the king and asking permission to go to Jerusalem and lead the people in rebuilding the walls of the city. The king agrees, even appointing Nehemiah as governor of Judea, which gives him the authority he needs to get the job done. When Nehemiah arrives in town, he makes a plan, he gathers the people for a big motivational speech, and they all get to work. As the wall starts going up, the people in the surrounding area realize that if Jerusalem gets a wall rebuilt, it will be the end of their stealing and looting. So they figure out that Nehemiah is the one calling the shots. And they decide that if they can distract him, perhaps the progress on the wall will slow or even stop. And this is where we find the verse that is the perfect reminder not to trade what's unique to you for something someone else can do. This group of enemies sends a message to Nehemiah asking him to come meet them in a nearby village. And in our context, this is like an acquaintance inviting you to lunch where you know she's going to pressure you into volunteering for her event or joining the school board. Nehemiah's response to this invitation is what became a defining verse for me and our family. In chapter 6 of verse 3, he said to the people who were trying to distract him, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and come down to you? In the season of life with little kids at home, I didn't have literal enemies trying to distract me like Nehemiah did. But the role that was unique to me, my great work, was being mom. And this verse showed me that I needed to respond just like Nehemiah to the invitations and opportunities that would have pulled me away from that. So I printed this verse, I posted it all over as a reminder that I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. Some of you may need to do the same. If you have an aging parent or a sick friend, you may need to pick up that phone and call, and while it's ringing, you remind yourself, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. If you have little kids at home, you need to tuck them in tonight and say, maybe even out loud, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. I cannot come down for that extra evening obligation. I cannot come down for another business trip. I cannot come down just because I'm afraid to say no to an invitation. So what roles are unique to you? These are the relationships that deserve your undivided attention. These are the inner circle people who should be getting your best, not your leftovers. They're your great work. None of the other stuff is permanent anyway. Someone else will have your job. Someone else will plan the thing. Someone else will even have your money. Don't give up what's unique to you for something someone else can do. I want to finish our time together with one more reminder from Scripture. In fact, with the most repeated command in all of Scripture, Old Testament and New. Know what it is? Fear not. The entire Bible tells the amazing story of a God who loves you so much that he doesn't want you to waste 1 ounce of energy on fear. The fear of missing out, the fear of falling behind, the fear of letting someone down. Rather than fear, you can choose to trust God. He wants to provide for you, to protect you, to delight you. Building breathing room into your life is the best way to learn to trust God. You can stop before you're exhausted and let him pick up the slack. And when you do, you'll end up with a collection of incredible stories about how God met your needs, about how you trusted him in the past and can trust him in the days ahead. Here's one last reminder of what, or maybe I should say who, is at stake in your decision to live life with breathing room.
Hey Mom, do you know where the ribbon is?
Why do you need ribbon?
My secret project? Mom? Mom!
Sorry, it's in the basket next to the blue chair. Don't make a mess for Dad.
Mom, come here. Mommy, can I use these twinkly lights?
Okay.
Mom, do you know where the glitter is? Never mind, I found it.
Honey, have you seen my keys?
Mom, see what I did.
Oh, baby, I am running so late.
You want to see this? Come on.
Oh, my goodness. You made all this for us? Come on.
It's better inside. Come here.
Okay, I didn't know it was done, you guys. All right, so let's get to the questions. I can say that I can definitely relate to that mom that was just now on the screen, which is crazy. Like I felt that video a little bit too much. All right, so the first question, it said, how did the video of the mother and daughter make you feel? And I will say for me, you drop your answers in the comments, it made me feel that I need to reevaluate a little bit more. Thought I was doing good. But I do have moments where I'm in my phone and my son is like, hey mom, like let's play video games. And I'm like, you can't see that I'm busy. And I don't think that what I'm doing, although it's business half the time, is not as busy as it is for me to drop it and play video games with him, because one day he's not going to want to do with me. And I keep saying that, but maybe if that's not the case, maybe he just really wants to spend time with his mom, right? And so I had to reflect just now, because that's super important. Like just the fact that he still wants to spend time with me is super important. So let's see. It says, have you ever been on the other side of someone who didn't have time for you? Someone with no breathing room? What was it like? Yes, I have. Just even with my own mom, she worked a lot and had stuff to do, but she worked outside of the home, and so yeah, it is a little hard to want somebody's attention and really need it, but know that they have to work or do something else to provide for you. So remember, drop your answers in the comments. So what did this one say? Think about some of your unique roles: daughter, mom, wife, sister, aunt, best friend. Which of these relationships is currently giving you leftovers? How do you feel about them? Sorry guys. The closest person to me that sees me constantly is my son. So I would say he does get some of my leftovers. And my niece, she gets some of my leftovers because she is constantly calling me talking about, I need to come see you. I need to come see you. And I'm always like, well, I got this to do. I can't have you this weekend. So yes, it would be definitely my son and my niece. Yes, I felt like an inconvenience too. Yeah. And it's not like you don't, that's the reading the comment, but it's not like you want to make your kids feel that way too, like once you have them. But I think sometimes, especially when you're doing like online businesses and more community service type businesses, you end up constantly at people's beck and call, and then you do make your kids feel like an inconvenience. Because I've tried my best not to make my kid feel the way that I felt when I was a kid, and it's been hard because now I look at my parents and I go, y'all we're working too hard. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Um, the fourth question: which of the four fears has caused you to take on something else? Something else. Oh, something someone else can do. So, which of the four fears has caused you to take on something else, something someone else can do? Fear of missing out, fear of not mattering, fear of falling behind, and fear of disappointing others. I probably would say like fear of disappointing others and falling behind. I always take on things, for those two reasons for sure. Is I don't want to disappoint people because I remember like I was a cheerleader and going to games, and I don't think my mom was able to come to any of my cheerleading games. And that was a bummer for me because I was like the only was I the only freshman that made it on the varsity team? And so, but I tried out freshman year. Yeah, all my friends made JV, I believe, and I made varsity, and that was big. Like for me, I was like, oh my god, because I remember like just even talking about that. I remember, like they put the list on the thing, and I didn't see my name on the JV list, you guys, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't make the team at all. And somebody was like, Jamie, you're over here on the varsity list. I was like, what me? And my mom never made a game, like. And like I don't know, I just like I was always wanting her to be there, but she never got to make it. But it was just insane to be like that age and then made it, and then I like just wanted her in the stands, I guess. So that's crazy. Yes, yeah, girl. I don't know. We're gonna have to learn how to balance the online situation because I feel like it takes away a lot. You know what I'm saying? So I think I had said something like I get to be a mom, and so I'm trying, to learn the balance between the online stuff and really setting times for that, and then really just giving the rest to the kids. I think I'm on the last question. Last question is Nehemiah 6:3 says, I am doing a great work and I cannot come down. What activities or opportunities are currently tempting you away from your unique role, your great work? And so, yeah, I would just say like just the balance of trying to get better at being online presence in business and still being able to be a mom. So working on that. And then I'm still trying to build relationships with friends and clients and stuff like that while still maintaining the relationship with the kids. Because what I was doing was just like work, and then never showing up for any of my friends' stuff either. And I just didn't think, I didn't think it mattered, but I wasn't connecting with people aside from when I had to, do things with the kids because they were complaining about it. So I feel like a lot of times I work to not deal with things. So when my dad passed away, right, it was unexpected, and then from when I came back from California, from the funeral and stuff like that, I just dove right into work, and it really wasn't because I wanted to be so busy. It was probably because every time I sat down and thought about it, my eyes started watering. So I think work is a distraction a lot of times, so I don't have to think about that. See, I'm cracking right now. But sometimes the pain that we experience is what pushes us into the purpose that God created us for, you know. And I do think that, I don't think that if I would have took the pain and just became depressed, I wouldn't be as far as I am right now. So I took the pain and the energy, flipped it, and invested in people. So, which I had done before, but it was different when I came back from California. So, anywho, a little bit of reflection to do tomorrow. I'm so excited because we do have a guest. Of course, it is a dude, and so we are going to get a male perspective on a few questions. Tomorrow's topic is prioritizing people, and I think that is something that we have a real issue doing, and especially me. So because to me, everybody is important. And I remember sitting down with one of my bosses, and she was like, "What does Jamie need?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know necessarily what I need, but I know that if I don't stick with these hours here, then that affects you and this and that." And she was like, "Jamie, like, it's great that you put everybody into the decisions that you make, but sometimes it's okay to think about yourself." And I have never done that, for real. So when she said, "What does Jamie need?" that was a hard question for me to ask because I didn't know what I needed. So, long story short, sometimes you have to prioritize yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself, all the wonderful things that you do, all the wonderful people's lives that you touch, all the wonderful things that you could possibly do in the future won't happen because you're burnt out, you're tired, you're irritated. So, and we don't want that because we need you, right? We need you to be that person that you are because that's why you were created. So, I am done talking. Hopefully, this is like a really good way to start your first 15 minutes of your day and just look in the mirror, right? Like, that's all we can do so that we can be better versions of ourselves daily, so we can touch the lives that God brought us here to touch. Because that's what's important. You're welcome. You have have a really good day, and I'm excited to see what happens tomorrow. I have to stay in control of tomorrow's guest because they like to talk. So we'll see how this goes. You guys have a great day. Don't forget to be a blessing to somebody today in any way that you possibly can. That person that doesn't seem like they're in a good mood, just know something probably happened, before you saw them. And so just try to be that beacon of light that is needed for that moment, because I've been there and you probably have to. I love you guys. Have an awesome, awesome, awesome Sunday. Okay? And be nice to the waitress at the restaurant after you're going to church. Be nice to her. Because I used to be her too at one point. Be nice.